World Financial Group offers entrepreneurs from all backgrounds the opportunity to start their own business on a level playing field. Dr. Yana Woodhouse, receiving the WCM Wall Street Pioneer Award by the United Black Wall Street of America, Inc., is one of those entrepreneurs.
I see WFG and TFA as a place where African Americans with an entrepreneurial mindset can flourish. And the bonus, we help families and serve the communities across the country.
To learn more about us, go to worldfinancialgroup.com.
We are the sons and daughters of the soul. We are resilient and forever forward-thinking. We ask for nothing else than the opportunity to live and to create the lives that we were meant to live. We want nothing but an equal chance at options and possibilities. The same possibilities and options to live out our potential as our fellow man. We want to be heard, understood, and expressive in our reality. We are the future. We are the creative. We are here.
Hello, and welcome once again to another fantastic Tuesday where your host, the Dress Down CEO, Tyrone Glover, is coming to you live from my hometown of Yonkers, New York. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the program, and thank you for, as always, hashtag make time. You are making time to be here today, and I greatly appreciate it. Excuse me. Greatly appreciate your time. We're going to spend the next hour going through some informative, important things that you need to know to keep that head above water, to make sure that you are in a position to take advantage of, whether we be in an uptrend, downtrend, doesn't matter. You have the ability to control what's going on around you, but you need this knowledge. You need this knowledge. You need this understanding. And the only way to get it is from those who are presenting it to you in a manner where we tell you 98% of what we're giving you, you can almost guarantee that's like going to the bank. And well, let me put that in a different way, because going to the bank today, 0.04 ain't going to do it. 0.03 and you're checking and all of that other places ain't going to do it. You do not want to be in situations where that's where you are, but you are in control. There are so many different vehicles out there that you can see your bottom line increase, but you got to want it more. You got to want it more than those who are presenting it to you. And again, my name is Tyrone Glover. I'm the Dress Down CEO of Leverage Credit Recovery. I'm also the director of my brand new nonprofit organization called Yonkers Young Entrepreneurs. I currently am working with My Brother's Keepers. I'm doing so much for this year to make sure that you, we, us, the public have what we need to make sure no matter what goes on, no matter what happens, that you are able to better yourself every single day. Better yourself. Doesn't matter what the circumstances and the situations and the conditions are, that you're bettering yourself. And if you're doing that, you're going to be okay. You're going to be able to weather this storm. I'm telling you, trust me. We live in trillion-dollar economies. Trillion-dollar economies. So if you can't navigate that space on your own, it's now overdue time that you find somebody like myself who can help you get through these trying times. So we're going to talk about something today. And then if time permits, we're going to dive into one of my articles that I wrote. And again, it's just going to solidify, it's going to hone in on the things that you need to be making sure that you know of. So today's topic, we're going to be talking about inflation, because I hear it all the time. People want to have a conversation about subject matters that they do not really truly understand. And it's kind of sad. It really is, because I find myself correcting individuals about certain things. And trust me, by no stretch of the imagination, am I someone who is 100% versed in these subject matters that I tend to dive into. but I do my thorough research. Before I put any show together, I do my thorough research and make sure I go through multiple channels, reach out to multiple individuals who can go over this and make sure that I'm good to go before I present it to anyone. And if you still want to challenge me on it, by all means, I welcome the challenge. But I guarantee you, when you do, make sure you come correct as well, because you're probably going to end up learning some new stuff from me because I do my due diligence. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump right on into inflation. What is inflation? Do you really even know what inflation is? Well, I'm here to tell you what it is. All right, so first, let's talk a little bit about who is this guy sitting in front of you. Again, Dress Down CEO, Tyrone Glover, credit coach, the credit guy. I've dedicated over 30 years of my to the service industry, wearing many hats: educator, manager, mentor, supervisor, coach. Throughout my career, I have had the privilege of guiding, teaching, and empowering thousands of individuals, including friends, family, coworkers, peers, and students at every level. My expertise extends to financial literacy, where I have helped countless individuals navigate the complexities of credit. I've advised, supported, and equipped people with the tools to challenge inaccurate credit data, protect their financial health, and take control of their financial future. Meanwhile, credit reporting agencies, banks, lenders, and alternative financial institutions continue to operate in a system riddled with manipulation, deception, and outright fraud, serving their own interests at the expense of consumers. The cost of their unethical practice is steep, and we, the people, are paying the price. So enough is enough, everybody. It's time to take action. It's time to what? Erykah Badu said it. Call Tyrone. All right, real quick, the Dow indices. Again, do you know what these things are? Because you're invested in these things. Inflation goes up and down based off of what you are now taking a quick look at. And yes, that's money in the bank, people. That is money in the bank. Look at that. From 2024, you can see a nice steady upwards trend going on here. This is the NAS. Nice upwards trend, but look what's been happening over the last couple of months, or this month alone, just March alone. Look at that. And you want to know what the result of that is, or what the reason for that is? Tariffs. Look at this one here. This is the Dow Jones Index. Obviously, markets are going to go up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. But look at this massive drop. 45,000 down to 41. That's $4,000, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to take you a while to make that money back in your 401k, your 403b, your Roth IRA, your CD. It's going to take you a lot of time. You're going to have to work a little bit more to make up the losses. And again, let me reiterate something, not due to your doing. All right, this is due to completely somebody else. So it's really important that you start now understanding, well, wait a minute. I'm letting somebody else control my money? Absolutely. You're letting somebody else control your money. It's now time that you start understanding these important things. Here's another quick one. You got the S&P, which is the Standard & Poor. Again, all of these, and if you can follow these in the manner in which I follow them, you're probably seeing that they all do pretty much the same thing. They all do pretty much the same thing. Massive month of March, where anyone who has these normal, traditional vehicles have lost trillions of dollars. Trillions. All right. I wanted to show you some market winners. So those of you who are trading or investing, these are your winners today. So good job. Very good job. And for those of you who, unfortunately, did not get your position switched, these are some of the losers. $22 is Meta, lost today. Netflix, $20. Costco, $18. So nevertheless, losers, winners, but you can also be a winner regardless of what goes on. Know these things, ladies and gentlemen. It's time. It's overdue time. If you're in the markets with your 401ks, 304bs, Roth IRAs, things of that nature, then you should know what is controlling the outcome of your ROI. Remember that term, ROI, return on investment. All right, so let's talk about inflation. What is inflation? Inflation erodes the price of the purchasing power of currency over time, reducing the amount of goods and services that a unit of money can buy. It is typically measured by the rising average price level to a selected bucket of goods and services within an economy over a specific period. The increase in price, often expressed as a percentage, reflects the declined value of money, meaning consumers must spend more to maintain the same standard of living. Let's talk about them eggs, folks. All right, that's all we got to really point it to. Eggs prices, things of that nature, have now skyrocketed, creating inflation that now your dollar doesn't have the same impact. It's just that simple. That's all it is. Nothing more than that. And now we have to start thinking about how do we get this inflation under control? Well, that's something that monetary policies and the government will have to do to bring that under control. Not with what they're currently doing now, but you as an individual, you can do one thing too. You can stop shopping. You want to force these businesses to lower that price? Stop shopping. Stop giving them your money. Now, definitely, I'm not saying don't buy your necessities. I'm not saying don't do the due diligence of keeping that household maintained and running, but be more mindful, be more strategic, have more planned understanding as to how you're going to combat and fight this inflation that's going on around you. In contrast, deflation occurs when the purchasing power of money strengthens, leading to a decline in overall price. While moderate inflation is a natural part of economic growth. So we understand that. Normal inflation, a point here, point there. I mean, it shouldn't be jumping to these astronomical numbers. Growth, inflation can diminish, excessive inflation can diminish saving, disrupting financial stability, and widening economic disparities. Understanding inflation is critical for individual businesses and policymakers as they navigate its impact on financial planning and investments. So again, businesses don't like the culture in which things are going right now. They don't. There's no certainty there. They don't like this inflation going up and down, up and down, up and down. They want something steady so they can project out over 6 months, over a year, over 18 months, or even possibly even over 2. They're not liking this. And that's why that chart, those graphs that I showed you earlier are showing that constant steady decline, because they are not able to forecast enough to make sure that they're going to be able to hit their bottom lines. They got investors to respond to. You as individuals, you may not have investors, but you got a household to provide for. So it works in the same way. All of us are CEOs of our household. All right, so I hope you have now a better understanding of what inflation does. There is inflation and there is deflation. All right, so let's talk a little bit about why inflation rates matter. So the inflation rates is a critical indicator of a nation's economic health. It serves as a key metrics for central banks, economists, and policymakers to determine whether interventions are needed to maintain economic stability. A well-managed inflation rate ensures businesses thrive. So again, a well-mannered inflation rates, not these things that jump up from 2 to 8 to back to 3, back to, no, that's not what we're referring to. Well-managed, where it goes up from 2. It might go up to 2.1 or 2.2, and then it comes back down to 2.1, and it might drop below that. But you can clearly see what we're dealing with today is having a huge impact on your ability to maintain that household in the manner in which it's allowing that dollar to go a lot further. And what it's also doing is definitely eating away at your ability to save for retirement. A well-managed inflation rate ensures businesses thrive, consumers spend with confidence, and the balance between supply and demand remains steady. The consequences of unstable inflation, deflation. When prices fall over time, consumers delay purchasing, expanding even lower price in the future. This reduced demand focuses businesses to cut costs, often through layoffs or pay reductions, leading to economic stagnation. A notable example was the 2008 financial crisis, when deflationary pressures worsened the recession. All right. For those of you who have been around, for those of you who brought kids into the world, you've probably seen that. Oh my God, in 2008, prices went through the roof. Things were up there. And you were wondering, oh my God, is it ever going to come down? Which you will see in a little bit, that yes, we have had inflation up by 12, 18%. This is nothing new. But what's new about it is in the manner in which it's coming so fast, so rapid over a short period of time. So there's something called hyperinflation. On the other hand, when inflation surges uncontrollably, consumers rush to buy before prices skyrocket, artificially inflating demand. Businesses, in turn, continue raising prices, fueling an inflationary spiral that erodes purchasing power and disrupts financial stability. So we got to be careful on both ends of this situation that we're not in control of, but we have some control over making sure that things are suitable for our households. Right now, I'm speaking primarily to the moms and dads and the single moms, single dads, single individuals. I'm speaking primarily to those one household family of a member, whoever it may be. I'm always going to give those shout outs to my single moms and single dads, always, because they're pulling double duties. But our single individuals too, you may be feeling it even more because, again, you probably pay a much higher tax bracket or in a much higher tax bracket. So got to make sure that you're doing the right things. But you have to understand what is the core reason behind all of this, what we call now inflationary misunderstandings. All right, let's keep it going. So the ideal balance. A moderate and predictable inflation rate, typically around 2%, creates a stable economic environment. So that's what you want to see. And that's the core inflation, not the other. There's a couple of other different inflations that you're going to see as time goes on. But the core inflation needs to be around 2%. The level of inflation signals steady growth where businesses can invest, expand, wages generally rise, and consumers maintain confidence in their purchasing power. Ultimately, inflation control is essential for economic prosperity. When managed effectively, so think about this, when managed effectively, it supports sustainable growth, protects jobs, and ensures financial security for both businesses and households. So we need Congress, we need all of these elected officials who may need to come and watch one of my shows one day about the topics that they should be controlling far better than me being able to explain it. Maybe they need to sit in on a session. You got anybody out there who you may want to ring up and say, come on in and join right now? Well, here's a perfect time to do that. All right, perfect time to send out a couple of invites to some individuals out there and tell them, hey, that guy's back on that channel and he's talking about some stuff that I think you may want to know. So inflation uncovered, how it shapes your money and the economy. While tracking the price changes of individual purchases over time, is straightforward. Humans need extend far beyond just one or two items. People require a diverse array of goods and services to maintain a comfortable standard of living. These essentials include commodities like food, grain, metals and fuel, utilities like electricity and transportation, and critical services like healthcare, labor, and entertainment. Inflation services as a critical economic indicator, capturing the overall effects of price changes across the broad spectrum of goods and services. It provides a single measurable value that reflects the rising cost of living and the declining purchasing power of money over time. Seems like a lot of words, but basically what you want to walk away with is that when inflation gets higher, your value of your dollar gets lower. When inflation comes down, it allows for you and businesses all at the same time to do more. to do more. You get to buy more, businesses get to supply them those goods and services, and they also get to hire more individuals. As currency depreciates, the price of goods and services increases, reducing the value of money and straining household budgets. All right, just as I said, the erosion of purchasing powers can significantly impact economic stability, leading to slower growth and heightened financial uncertainty, as you may see and as you may be experiencing if you are a business leader or if you are, again, as I said, an individual running that household. And have these conversations with your kids, folks. Start talking about some of the things as to why they can't and why they can. And this is one of those reasons why they can and also equally why they can't. Economists generally agree that persistent inflation arises when the expansion of a nation's money supply outpaces economic growth. To mitigate inflationary pressure, central banks and monetary authorities intervene by regulating money supply and credit availability. Their goal is to maintain inflation within acceptable levels. So that's the acceptable level. We said it already. What is it again? Yes, exactly. It's 2%. Ensuring economic stability and sustainable growth. Inflation is measured using various methodologies depending on the specific buckets of goods and services considered. It stands in contrast to deflation, which signifies a broad decline in price when the inflation rate drops below 0. All right, so 2 is that normal. Anytime it gets below that, we're running into another probably a different type of inflationary concern or deflation concern. Both inflation and deflation, if left unchecked, can disrupt economic equilibrium, making effective monetary policies essential for a thriving economy. All right, so as I said, you're getting a lot of information, but I want you to be able to understand there's inflation, there's deflation. Both of them have to be controlled at a level where it allows for businesses and consumers equally to grow and to have sustainable growth. You want to be able to see your money work harder for you versus you working harder for your money. You want to be able to know that if you have an 18-year-old or a 21-year-old looking for that job, that they can go out and they can get hired by these companies. But they're not going to be able to do that when inflation is too high. They're not going to be able to do that when inflation is too low. We have to be able to maintain that inflation, or not we ourselves, but as I said, we can put pressure on elected officials by doing what? And put pressure on stores as well. By doing what? Not shopping. By doing another thing when it comes to those elected officials, by ringing them phones off the hook, letting them know we are paying attention. We are now fully involved in what's going on. And those of you who are not, I hope that this helps you get more involved. So here's a map, annual inflation by U.S. regions. So you can clearly see that this is a map of 2024 CPI, which is considered the consumer price index. So the change in consumer prices from December 23 to December 24. So you can see we were moving in that upwards direction of 4.3. Look at the Northeast region, 3.5. New York, 4.3. So wondering why them eggs are expensive? There it is. There it is. Monetary policy in New York has not been as good as it should have been. And I'm going to constantly keep saying it over and over and over, as most people should. Tax the rich, watch what happens. Don't tax the rich. Now you're experiencing what happens. All right. Midwest, a little bit lower. Houston, wow, at 1%. The south of the country, Atlanta, 2.6. So they're within that range of, but you got to remember, cost of living is much, much lower in the South. All right, the West is doing better than the East or the Northeast, but nevertheless, look at LA, coastal cities. All All right. So you get a good idea or a good understanding as to, but the overall rate is 2.9. So we're still in a good place in space, but why are things so high? I'm going to tell you again, gouging. Businesses are passing it off to you. They're using inflation as a means to say, well, sorry, well, our prices are higher, so your prices are going to be higher. Stop shopping and watch what happens. That's it. Just like we're seeing all of these protests going on about these job cuts and all of this overreaching, just like I just saw, I can't remember the name of the country right now, but it was on one of the TV shows that I was watching where they had this protest. And I think the country itself doesn't have that many people, but nevertheless, they still had 300,000 people show up in their town square. 300. And I love technology because it allowed for all of those individuals to do what? It allowed for all of those individuals to turn on their cell phone. So all you saw was just this sea of lights. It was amazing. But that's what democracy looks like. Real democracies, where they don't want authoritarianism, and they definitely don't want dictatorship. So it was great to see, and more of these protests are popping up around the globe. All right, but back to what we talk about. Inflation, look at that. Videos, CDs, and other media up 30%. Why are you buying TVs? Why y'all buying Game Boys? Why y'all buying cell phones? It's up 30%, folks. Are you serious? You're out there buying this stuff and it's up 30% over the year before? All right, this is March of 2024. You think it went down a little? It probably did go down a smidgen because they know that people are looking at this and going, whoa, wait a minute. But we're still buying. The only way to send a clear message to individuals in these entities is to stop. Buy your bare essentials. Bare essentials. Juices and drinks, 27%. Motor vehicle insurance, 22%. Repairs on household items, 18%. I mean, the list is ridiculous. It is literally ridiculous that we have paid that much over time. And it's not due to you. It's because of you that they're getting away with it. But how do you put a stop to it? Well, I just told you. Stop shopping. Stop going to these big boxes or stop going to these stores where they're gouging you, where you used to be able to take $100 and you probably walk out of the store with a bag or two or three. $100 barely gets you a bag half full. All right? There's things that we can do, folks. There's things that we can do. So here's some key drivers of inflation, understanding its cause and its impact. An increase in the money supply is the fundamental driver of inflation through its effect unfold through various mechanisms within the economy. Monetary authorities expand the money supply in several ways by directly issuing and dispersing new money, by deliberately devaluing the legal tender, or most commonly by creating new money through the banking system. This typically occurs when central banks purchase government bonds from financial institutions on the secondary market, effectively injecting fresh liquidity into the markets. Yes, banks, all of these large entities, they're going to make sure that their bottom lines are being met. So they're going to do what they need to do to keep that flowing in that manner. They got investors to respond to. So this is why they can get away with what they're getting away with, because they have other individuals that will jump ship, but those investors will clearly not, as long as they understand, hey, you might be feeling the pinch for a minute or two, but after that, you're going to be making out again, while the consumer and all of us who have 401ks and 304Bs and Roth IRAs and CDs end up getting the shortest end of the stick. Regardless of the method, an expanded money supply erodes the purchasing power of currency, leading to inflation. The impact of this process manifested in three key forms. There's something called demand pull inflation, which increases consumer spending, outpace supply. There's something called cost put inflation, which raising products cost drives price higher. And there's something called built-in inflation, which Expectations of future inflation fuels a self-reinforcing cycle of wages and price increase. Understanding these three dynamics is critical for price policymakers, businesses, and individuals striving to navigate the complexities of economic stability. So those three things, we're going to talk a little bit more about them as we get further and further. But remember, demand pulled inflation, where increased consumer spending outplaces the supply. So that means you have, and you get to the store and now it's gone because it's all been bought up. Cost put inflation, where rising production costs drives prices higher. So again, they pass that off to you, and I'll give you a cost put inflationary understanding. Tariffs. If you didn't know what a tariff is, now you have somewhat of a slight idea of what it is. And then the built-in inflation, where expectations of future inflation fuels a self-reinforcing cycle of wages and price increase. These are already built in, and then there are other pieces that makes the inflation go even higher. Hey, you going to school today, folks. we going to school today, and it's a great thing. Get this information now so that you can, prior to the spring break, prior to the summer break. We're still in month number 3, or just reaching month number 3. Well, halfway through month number 3. Oh my God, that went so quick. We are halfway through month number 3, and what we have experienced has been unprecedented on so many levels. All right, so this demand pull effect. There are 6 causes of demand pull inflation. A growing economy. Exceptions for inflation. Expectations for inflation. Over expansion of the money supply. Discretionary physical policies. Strong branding and technical innovation. This is the 6 keys that have something to do with that demand pull inflation. Cost pulling effect. 5 causes of cost pull inflation, which with examples. So you got monopolies. Yes. You have wage inflation, natural disasters, government regulation and taxation, and the exchange rates. So these are going to have that. And you can see there's multiple things that pushes the price of things up, but primarily monetary policies would help reduce some of that, and also equally if we, the consumer, pushed back. And then you have the built-in inflation, some more facts about built-in inflation, wage spiral, and inflationary expectations. So there's multiple things that contribute, but you as a consumer, you need to understand if your money isn't working for you, then you might want to stop investing it in vehicles that don't give you a good return. And you might want to do a little bit more discount shopping, or make sure that you're only shopping for your bare basic understandings until the government gets this under control. And you can drive that. You can make that happen, but it has to be a collective. I can't do it alone. Maybe my city can't do it alone, but I'm almost certain if we gathered up multiple cities, multiple states to really hone in on why these situations are and really started doing what we know we can do, we can bring this under control, and we can tell our government, nope, not with us, folks. But it's going to be up to all of us. So the 13 key types of inflations, the 4 most critical and 9 more you should know about. All right, so there are 13 key types of inflation. The 4 most critical and 9 more you should know about. So inflation occurs again when the price of goods and services rise, reducing the purchasing power of your money. So again, I'm going to take this soda here. Now, this soda used to be a 99-cent soda. I'm not advertising, but it used to be a 99-cent soda. It's well over $2 now. It's well over $2. So clearly, I bought it off of convenience because I don't want to walk around with a 2-liter. All right. So again, it's important to understand the goods of services rise, and your amount, that's going to be the dollar that you have now, is lesser than. You have to spend more of that money. It is a critical economic phenomenon that affects individual businesses and entire economies. Economists classify inflation into four main types based on its rate. There's a creeping, there's a walking, there's a galloping, and then there is hyperinflation, each with increasing severities. Additionally, specific forms of inflation, such as asset inflation, rising price of investments like real estate and stock, and wage inflation, increasing wage driving up costs, play significant roles in economic dynamics. While some experts refer to demand pull inflation, rising price due to higher consumer demand, and cost pull inflation, price increase driven by higher production costs, as distinct types. They are actually causes of inflation. Another key driver is the expansion of money supply, where excessive printing or circulation of money devalues currencies and accelerates inflation. Understanding these different types and causes is essential for making informed financial decisions and sharpening effective economic policies. So again, you have control, the government has control, businesses have control, but the government and businesses have way more control. Your job is to make sure that your money is getting what you need at the value that you are willing to pay. But if you go out there and keep shopping and shopping and shopping, spending and spending and spending, again, you're not going to change how that. You're just going to make individual companies richer and richer and richer. Remember, they're passing on their costs to you. And you already know that your dollar does not go as far as it used to go. So if you know that your dollar isn't going as far as it used to go and they're passing on their cost to you, what would you now have to adjust? You would have to adjust how you're spending and using your money. All right, so the types of inflation, including asset, wages, and core inflation. So the creeping or mid inflation is where prices rise 3% a year or less. According to the Federal Reserve, where price increases 2% or less. It benefits economic growth. So that creeping inflation helps. All right. This kind of mild inflation makes consumers expect the price will go up. This boosts demand. Consumers buy now and beat higher future prices. Again, real simple to understand. Creeping is going up marginally. You got walking inflation. This strong or destructive inflation is between 3 and 10% a year. It is harmful to economies because it heats up economic growth too fast. All right. People start to buy more than they need to avoid tomorrow's higher prices. This increases buying, drives demand even higher so the supplier can't keep up. All right. So again, there's so many things that you can do, but by understanding each one of the categories, it'll make your decision-making hopefully a lot easier. Galloping inflation. When inflation rises over 10% or more, it wreaks absolute havoc on an economy. Money loses value so fast that businesses and employers cannot keep up with cost and prices, causing what? Come on, tell me. Causing what? Yes, businesses to close and go out of business. Foreign investors avoid the countries, depriving it of needed capital. The economy becomes unstable. The government loses, leaders lose credibility. Galloping inflation must be prevented at all costs. Now, we didn't get to that 10%, but we were galloping very, very close to that. So we were probably, I would have to say that we were probably in this walking inflation area, and we're probably still in that walking inflation area, but we really want to get down to what? We want to get down to this creeping inflation. All right, where it doesn't rise more than 3% in 1 year, or 3% or less. So this is that where we want to be. This is where we definitely could maintain, but we should not be in that area. And this is where we definitely do not want to be. So types of inflation, again, we have hyperinflation. Hyperinflation is when price skyrockets more than 50% a month. It is very rare, thank goodness. In fact, most examples of hyperinflation occurs when government prints money to pay for wars. We haven't had some wars in a little bit, so this must be a good thing. Example of hyperinflation includes Germany in the 1920s, Zimbabwe in the 2000s, and Venezuela in 2010. The last time America experienced hyperinflation was during its Civil War. Here's something called stagflation. Stagflation is when economic growth is stagnated, but there still is price inflation. This combination seems contradictory, if not impossible. Why would price go up when there isn't enough demand to stoke economic growth? Well, here's an example. It happened in the 1970s when the United States abandoned the gold standard. Once the dollar value was no longer tied to gold, it plummeted. At the same rate, the price of gold skyrocketed. So stagflation doesn't end until Federal Reserve. It didn't end until Federal Reserve Paul Volcker raised the Fed fund rate to the double digits. He kept it there long enough to dispose exceptions of further inflation, meaning dispel expectations of further inflation. Because it was such an unusual situation, stagflation probably won't happen again. So that's a good thing, out of the way. All right, so here's something, what I said before, the core inflation. The core inflation rate measures rising price in everyday except on everything except food and energy. That's because gas prices tend to escalate every summer. Families use more gas to go on vacation. Higher gas costs increases the price of food and anything else that has higher transportation costs. The Federal Reserve uses the core inflation rate to guide it in setting monetary policy. So that's why I said that core inflation rate, they want to keep that somewhere around that 2%. The Fed doesn't want to adjust interest rates every time gas prices go up, which makes perfect sense. So types of inflation, again, here's some more. There's something called deflation. Deflation is the opposite of inflation. It's when prices fall. It's caused when an asset bubble burst. That's what happened in the 2006 housing. Deflation in housing prices tapped those who bought their home in 2005. In fact, the Fed was worried about the overall deflation during the recession. You may not have been born, or some of you who might be listening to it may not have been born. I was still around at that time. I was definitely born. All right. I didn't feel the huge impact. Was I in the States yet? I was in the States. I was here. But I was living very, very comfortably. I didn't have really much of a worry or a concern because at that time, I wasn't really paying attention to this stuff. But now that I am, I was still doing okay, but I probably could have been doing much better. That's because deflation can turn a recession into a depression, right? During the Great Depression of the 1929s, prices dropped 10% a year. Oof. Once deflation starts, it is hard to stop then inflation. All right, so you don't want to definitely be in that area. So we got to do everything we can to make sure that we have monetary policies that keep us out of deflation. Wage inflation. Wage inflation is when workers' pays rise faster than the cost of living. That hasn't happened for a while. I'm almost certain that hasn't happened for a while. The kind of inflation occurs in three situations. First is when there is a shortage of workers. Second is when labor unions negotiate even higher wages. And third is when workers effectively control their pay. All right, a worker shortage occurs whenever unemployment is below 4%. Labor unions negotiate higher pay for auto workers in the 1990s. All right, CEOs effectively control their pay by setting sitting on many corporate boards, especially their own. All of these situations create wage inflation. Of course, everyone thinks their wage increases are justified, but higher wages are one element of cost pull inflation. This can drive up the price of companies' goods and services. And again, it's real simple. If I buy something and I have to pay more for it, obviously I'm going to pass that cost off to the consumer. And also equally, if I hire individuals and I have to give them more wages, then what am I going to do with that? I'm going to pass that also off in the goods and services that I provide, also onto the consumers. All right, so that's how I can best explain the wage inflation. All of these are super important. And anybody who wants this to be able to review later on at a later time, please just let me know. Send me a quick text on my phone, 805-428-9424. Send me a link to, or send me a text or an email to my Leverage Credit Recovery, or hit me up right here on Soul City, and we'll be able to give it to you as well. So asset inflation, an asset bubble, or asset inflation occurs in one asset class. Goods examples are housing, oil, and gold. It is often overlooked by Federal Reserves and other inflation watchers when the overall rate of inflation is low. But the subprime mortgage crises and subsequent global financial crises demonstrated how demanding or damaging unchecked asset inflations could be. All right, so there are so many things that we have to pay attention to, but not all at once. All right, monetary policies, making sure that you have the ability to use your money in the manner in which it's going to pay off for you, taking care of all of the unnecessary things that are going on around you. And I can just say the biggest thing to make this, or have the government put it into some controllable understanding: stop spending. Stop spending. Hold on to your resources. Only buy the bare minimum. So asset inflation on gas. Gas prices rise each spring to anticipate for a summertime vacation driving season. In fact, you can expect gas prices to rise 10 cents per gallon each spring. But political uncertainty in the oil exporting countries drives gas prices higher in 2011 and 2012. Prices hit an all-time peak of $4.06 in July of 2008, thanks to the economic uncertainties. Where do you think those prices are now going to go that we have now? Brand new economic uncertainties. Let's move on to asset inflation oil. Crude oil prices hit an all-time high of $145.31 a barrel in July of 2008. This inflation-adjusted price was despite a decrease in global demand and an increase in supply. Commodity traders determine oil prices. Those traders include both speculators, that's a good one for me, speculators, and corporate traders who are hedging their risk. Traders bid on crude oil prices in two situations. First is if they think there are threats to supply, such as unrest in the Middle East. Second is if they see a uptick in demand, such as growth in China. So again, we don't have very much in these two areas, whether it be this asset inflation on gas, asset inflation on oil. What about asset inflation on food? Food prices soared 6.4% in 2008, causing food riots in India and other emerging markets. They spiked again in 2011, rising by 4.8%. Higher food costs led to the Arabic Spring, according to many economists. Food riots caused by inflation in this important asset class could reoccur. All right, eggs. That's all I gotta say, eggs. And if you are shopping and you have seen the prices of your items get more and more expensive, well, there's that part that we have just talked about right there. Food inflation, asset inflation on food. So I can go on and 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 on. But let's take a look at this asset inflation on gold. An asset bubble emerged when gold prices soared to an all-time high. And today, this is where gold prices are up. They are up $3,034 an ounce as of March 2000. Today, as of March 18, 2005. While many investors may hesitate to label this as inflation, the reality is that it was, or shall I say that it is. Price surge not due to change in gold supply and demand, but because the widening of flight to safety. Okay, when the market goes this way, which is down, guess what gold prices do? They go up. If you don't have investments in gold, if you do have investment in gold, you're making out like a champion. So it's called a safety net. It's something that people look to make sure that, hey, I'm getting some type of return, even though my money might not be making money off of its own. All right. I know that seems like a little bit challenging to understand, but think about it. If you're not able to have your dollar make money for you or buy goods at the same price of a dollar, say 5 years, 10 years, 15 years ago, then you need something to offset that difference. And here's where gold comes in to do that. Investors alarmed by the weakening U.S. dollar sought refuge in gold, viewing it as a hedge against potential hyperinflation in goods and services. Additionally, mounting uncertainty about gold economics and geopolitics sustainably further fueled the rush, amplifying the surge in gold prices. So the same exact thing is happening today. If I were to show you a gold chart, you'd probably say, my goodness, I wish I was invested in gold. And I can tell you right now, you need to be invested in gold. All right. I'm not a stock advisor. I'm not someone who's giving you stock information. Always consult the experts in this space. I'm just someone who has the general knowledge of being able to give it to you so that you can make an educated understanding about what direction you should be going when it comes to your money. I'm going to talk more about other subject matters as well. I'm going to bring in some of those experts who can also validate, but we got to have the conversation first. All right, we got to have the conversation. You need to know the things that you talk about at that water cooler, the things that you talk about amongst your friends and family in private. But yet I hear these conversations also in private, and I have to, again, this is where I get the ability and the understanding of being able to produce and put out these shows because I'm hearing it from individuals who would love to see me do it in the manner in which I'm doing it, which is give that information out there, get people more involved and engaged in what they're going to have to be doing when it comes to their money, their assets. All right. Economic uncertainty sparks market reactions. Concerns over global financial stability continues to dominate headlines. We got job reports, employment data signaling shifting economic conditions. We got the Eurozone debt crises, persist debt struggles in Europe, raising fears of a financial instability. We got the U.S. debt default. We definitely just got over one, but how many times are we going to constantly keep saying, oh, the government's going to shut down. 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 That's just like our credit rating. Our credit rating should not be going through these ebbs and flows. Standard & Poor's is going to reduce our credit rating. Moody's is also going to reduce our credit rating because they don't want to see these ebbs and flows that we can't get it together. So the anxiety grows over whether the United States will meet its debt obligations. So we just talked about that gold surging. Investors flock to gold as uncertainty grasps the markets. It's just that simple. They're going to go somewhere where they know that that is a safe space to be in. And a lot of us don't even make enough money. And this is what really gets me the most. A lot of us don't even make enough money that we even can invest in the manner in which I'm talking. But it's now overdue time to start looking at that $5, $10, $15, $20 that you might be spending extra on that coffee, that you might be spending extra on buying more and more at that grocery store, when you should probably be taking that and saying, okay, where can I put this? How can I put this somewhere where it's going to grow? Historically, gold serves as both a hedge against inflation and a refuge during economic downturns. What are we seeing right now? An economic downturn, and price of gold is doing what? It's going up. Whether driven by fears of rising prices or looming recessions, its value often reflects the world financial anxieties. All right, so we got a lot of stuff today, folks. You got a lot of information today, lots, and I'm hoping that this helps you with now making better decisions. So let's take a quick look at some of this inflation rates by year, from 2029 to 1929. So can anybody tell me what that was? Yes, thank you so much. That was the beginning of the Great Depression. So U.S. inflation rate by year is the percentage of change in price and service, in products and service from one year to the next, year over year. The inflation rate responds to each phase of the business cycle. This is natural rise and fall of economic growth that occurs over time. The cycle corresponds to the highs and lows of nations' gross domestic products. So that's GDP. When you hear that GDP, just think gross domestic products, which means all goods and services produced in that country. So we're talking primarily about the United States. So we had the market crash. Look where inflation year over year was. Then we had that boom. So that's going to cause some people to have a problem. All right. Look at this, 0.9. So when we talk about, oh, we've never had inflation that high before, come on, people. Come on. We have had inflation higher. Look at this. All right. When they tell you about deflation, that's when the price of things are going the opposite direction. Look what happens. All right. The best way to compare inflation rates is to use the year end over year CPI, Consumer Price Index. That creates an image of a specific point in time. The table compares the inflation rate, December end of year, with the Fed fund rate, the phase of the business cycle, and the significant events influencing inflations. All right, so we've been at high inflation and we've been at low deflation. Okay, look at that, 9%, 9%. That's almost 10%. All right, look at that. What was it? Pearl Harbor, a war. Okay, so inflation is nothing new. It's up to us to make sure that we have monetary policies and that we have things that are going to keep inflation where we need it to be, and not constantly keep watching these ebbs and flows. Rich get rich, poor get poor. All right, rich get rich, poor get poor. Okay, 18%, y'all. 18%. Need I say more about that? That's 18.1%. 1946. What do you think that people were doing? Okay, again, we've had some low inflation. We've had some high inflation. We've had some low inflation. We've had some high inflation. All right, low inflation, high inflation. Let's not go crazy, okay? Let's not say, oh my God, can't believe. If you've been around long enough, you can believe. You have seen it. All right, so it said 9, but these are 1975, 1976. So we have had some moments of, look at Reagan, almost 9%. Look at that, recession. All right, 12.5%. Look at this, 13.3. So this is nothing new. All right, it's not new. It's not new. So we have gone through some of the storms and we are coming out on the other side, hopefully far better. But it's monetary policies. It's making sure that we are able to maintain the lifestyle that we need to live. And as long as we're doing that, Feds do their part, we do our part, businesses do their part, we can live out through whatever's going on. All right. But the 2000s have not really been that significant. No, normal. Normal areas. This is probably the one that got a little bit out of hand, right? But understanding inflation is a key thing that's going to allow for you to make sure that you're able to navigate this space more effectively. Know that your money is working for you, because if your money's not working for you, guess what? It's working harder for somebody else. So inflation refers to the rate at which the purchasing power of currencies decline, leading to a general increase in price of goods and services over time. It directly impacts the cost of living, businesses' operation, and economic stability, making it a critical factor in financial planning and policy making. Economists categorize inflation in three main categories. Demand pull inflation occurs when consumers' demand exceeds supply. You have the cost pull inflation resulting from rising production costs such as wages and raw materials, which businesses pass on to consumers. And then you have the built-in, stem from expectations of continued inflation, prompting businesses and workers to adjust price and wages accordingly. The most widely used measure of inflation includes the Consumer Price Index, CPI, and there is another one which tracks the change in price for everyday consumer goods and services, and the WPI, which is the Wholesale Price Index, which refers to the price trend of goods and services at the producer's level. All right, so we are wrapping this up, ladies and gentlemen. I want to thank you, as always. I want to thank you so much for making time. Drop us a line. Maximize your financial power. Unlock opportunities with Leverage Credit Recovery. How do you do that? Well, give us a call, folks. 805-428-9424. Send us an email, leveragecreditrecovery@gmail.com. And also you can find us now at our link tree, which is Linktree, that's linktr.ee/Leverage Credit Recovery. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. Yes, we nailed it, ladies and gentlemen. We nailed it. We gave you some valuable information. Take that information. If you need these PowerPoints, I have zero problem in sending them to you. But I want to thank you always from the bottom of my heart for making time. Remember that hashtag, folks. Put that hashtag out there for us. Help us get that notoriety that we and you deserve. Make time. Hashtag make time. Thank you, everybody. Have a great remainder of your evening. And thank you again. And as always, be safe, America.
We are the sons and daughters of the soul. We are resilient and forever forward-thinking. We ask for nothing else than the opportunity to live and to create the lives that we were meant to live. We want nothing but an equal chance at options and possibilities. The same possibilities and options to live out our potential as our fellow man. We want to be heard, understood, and expressive in our reality. We are the future. We are the creative. We are here.